A little bit of whole lot of oh yeah. A little bit of whole lot of oh yeah. A little bit of whole lot of oh yeah. A little bit of whole lot of oh yeah.
Okay, hello, and this is Steve from Retro Man Blog, and welcome to this latest edition of Retrosonic Podcast, our little Lockdown Lowdown special, and this is episode 3. And I'm pleased to welcome into our virtual studio today Mr. Raymond Gorman of That Petrol Emotion and The Everlasting Year. And hello, Raymond.
Hey, Steve.
Good. It's good to see you. I mean, we've been promising to do this for quite a while, haven't we?
Yeah, it has. It's taken a while, but that's the beauty of the lockdown now. You've been able to do all these things we've been putting off.
Yeah, so the idea of this little series of podcasts was to get in some people to chat. It's sort of like a little Desert Island Disc soundtrack of your lives sort of thing, you know, just to see what people are, just to keep us occupied really and to entertain, hopefully. And so what I want to know, I mean, going back right back to the very beginning, what was the very first, your very earliest musical memory, you know, when you were the first time that you can recall hearing something special that say, wow, what's this? You know, what's this great thing I'm hearing?
It's really funny because music was always a big part of my life, but my parents were not really big music fans. I don't remember much music around the house, to be honest with you, when we were younger. First, the kind of first memory I think I have, and I'm not even, it might even be a false memory, but I don't think so. It was like the Beatles, probably She Loves You, I think. The Beatles always they confused me because they had two different singers.
She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. You think you've lost your love? Well, I saw her yesterday, yeah. It's you she's thinking of, and she told me what to say, yeah. She said she loves you, and you know that can't be bad. She loves you, and you know you should be glad. She said if you hurt her so, she almost lost her mind. But now she says she knows you're not the hurting kind. She said she loves you, and you know that can't be bad. Yes, she loves you, and you know you should be glad.
Yeah, and then the next sort of strongest memory after that would be Ride a White Swan. So that's what, 1970. And again, it was in somebody else's house. We moved house when I was 7, 1968. And that was a big year. It was like a civil rights march, which my dad took me on, and we moved house. So and I changed school. So it was a traumatic year for me because I'd been at this really amazing primary school, and Damien O'Neill was there. He was at the same time with me, and he was taken out as well. And I think both of us were quite traumatized because the school we were at was a mixed school and very much geared towards the creative arts. I mean, I was doing acting and stuff, which I never subsequently ever did again, really. And, you know, I remember like we did these big plays and you'd be wearing like pant-stick makeup and stuff. And the play that I was in, I was like playing, I don't know if it was like a dwarf or something or some kind of leprechaun. I can't remember. But I had to eat an apple. I remember like there's two things I remember about it was I had to eat an apple and I was really nervous. So I ate it really quickly and people started laughing, you know, because it was comical. And then I responded to ham that I am. I responded to the laughter. and I made it even, like just camped it up or whatever, And then I had at another point there was like a kind of like a sort of like a little house made out of cardboard or whatever, and I think I had to go down the chimney, and then I got stuck in the chimney, and again everybody was laughing. And it was like, it was just an amazing feeling. So that's where the kind of idea to be on stage kind of came from. But then it didn't happen then for another 14 years or whatever. So
yeah.
But it was a really great time. So then we moved house, and there was this girl called Diane Jackson. So she would have been a few years older than me. So she got me to dance one day to Ride a White Swan with T-Rex. And that was brilliant, like dancing with a girl and stuff, and so like that kind of started my love of T-Rex as well, and sort of glam. Yeah, and I think in the email I sent you, I told a story about like Diane Jackson. Her mum she was a bit of a character, and whenever anybody religious would come around, you get the Mormons going door to door. Like, it's really funny. The Mormons, can you imagine? This is during like the start of the Troubles, and the Mormons were still coming around all the houses. And she used to shout at the Mormons, if they came, and knocked the door, she was so rude to them. So all the kids knew there was going to be some fun, so everybody gather around her door and wait for her just to tell them the F off or whatever, It's really
fun. Classic. So did you get the girl? Did you dance, sing? Did it work?
No, I think, I don't know. I was a couple of years younger than her. I'm sure she wasn't interested. It was probably still pre-pubescent or whatever. But, it was cute, and she was really sweet and stuff, So it was lovely. It's a lovely memory. So,
yeah.
that record's very kind of special to me.
Write it all out like a bird in the sky. Was write it all out like you were a bird. Fly it all out like an eagle in a sunbeam. Write it all out like you were a bird. Wear a tall hat like a druid in the old days. Wear a tall hat and a tattooed gown. Ride a white swan like the people of a Belgium. Wear your hair long, babe, you can't go wrong. Catch a bright star and a place it on your forehead. Say a few spells and baby, there you go. Take a black cat and sit it on your shoulder. And in the morning you'll know all you know.
I'd actually been learning classical piano. I was like a classically trained pianist for many years until we moved house, and the piano teacher was an epileptic, and he had a fit one day. He was a great teacher. I was making amazing progress with him, really quite fantastic. But one day he fell over the top of me, had a fit, and he fell over the top of me, he pinned me down the piano. And I couldn't move, and I thought he was dead, and I must have lay there for about 20 minutes, and then I managed to extricate myself. You can imagine I was terrified, absolutely terrified, traumatized. And of course, instead of like telling the truth, I don't know why I was scared to tell the truth, so I told my mum he moved away. So I used to go up to the park and, and just stay in the park for an hour instead of going to the lesson. And then I told my mum that he'd moved away or something. I was just telling all these lies. And then she met him a couple of weeks later uptown, and he explained what happened. But they dealt with it quite badly.
Yeah.
And I was never able to go back. And then I went to another teacher, and she wasn't I just never kind of clicked with her. So then I ended up giving up piano then.
So you could have been an actor, a comedian, or a classical pianist. Yeah?
So it's interesting, because when I went to learn the guitar, my parents didn't want to help me at all. They said, you gave up the piano, so we're not helping you anymore. It was like, I had a traumatic incident. There's a reason why I didn't go back to piano. So I got a paper round, and I got a really sort of very basic electric guitar and a little 6-watt amp. I taught myself in. I didn't take any lessons.
So you mentioned you're hearing like Marc Bolan, and this is a great thing, isn't it, about music? This is what I'm trying to capture, is that songs that have sort of a memory, that are evocative of a particular time, and that's the amazing thing, isn't it? That when you listen to that, say, Ride a White Swan, you're transported back to the dance floor, and that's the great thing. And that's what I'm trying to capture in this series, of those great musical moments,
Yeah, well, I think we were lucky to grow up during that time, because that time is gone if you think about it. The charts. And you think about it, we kind of came of age in the 70s. Whenever, if you go through every year of the 70s, there was something amazing coming out like every week or every 2 weeks. You'd hear something and be like, what is that? I've never heard anything like that before. And that continued the whole way through. And then there was that thing as well, which was like music was like a communal experience, because you could, when you're at school, everybody would sit. We used to have like a little tiny transistor, and we would sit at lunchtime. And I remember listening to Johnny Walker, because it'd be like a chart rundown, be on a Tuesday during our lunch break. And, I remember we'd even write, like me and my brother, we used to write down the chart, all the top 30 or whatever. And, so it was like what they call like a water cooler moment, so everybody could share in that, shared love of music. But then also you could take the music away and listen to it by yourself, and it was like that thing where people did nothing but just listen to the music, and then look at the sleeve and take in all the information, or you just enjoy the artwork on the sleeve. Do you know what I mean? It was it was a much more satisfying experience, I think, than like streaming music.
Wear a tall hat like a druid in the old days. Wear a tall hat and a tattooed gown. Ride a white swan like the people of a belting. Wear your hair long, baby, can't go wrong.
I'm telling this story because this benefited like Damien and John from the Undertones, and Kieran as well. Actually, there was this guy we all knew in Derry. He was a doctor's son. His nickname was Wombat. His name was Donald McDermott. So he was getting good pocket money, and he was like, he was a real aficionado of the NME. So whatever the NME said, was gospel to him. But he had the money to go out basically and buy like an LP almost every week. But the good thing about it was he would share those records.
Yeah.
So, that's how I got to hear MC5, New York Dolls, The Velvets, like Eno's solo records. I remember he was actually a member of the Eno fan club, and I remember him telling me there was only about, maybe he was number 550 or something. There was probably maybe only 800.
A good friend to know.
He was, and I mean, look, he was responsible for changing John O'Neill's tastes, and then as a result, Damien and Kieran as well. I mean, Kieran was quite sort of precocious, because Kieran's actually a year or two below me at school.
What was the first record you bought then? So you got into listening to the charts and that, and your music. What was it? Am
I allowed to say what the actual one was, or do we have to?
Well, we can gloss over. But the thing is, you can't airbrush it, because you grew up.
No, I know. Well, I was going to say to you, like I still play those records, because I think it's a kind of disgrace to the memory of Mike Leander. We're talking about Gary Glitter records from the early 70s, by the way. Because the thing about it was, like, Glitter was the singer and he fronted it, but it was Leander was the genius. I mean, he was the genius that got that sound, and the Glitter Band records, that. And I think people still don't really know how he got that sound, So it was a Gary Glitter record. It was Hello, Hello, and Back Again. But then the one after that would have been Life on Mars. So you had Marc Bolan, and you had T-Rex, and you had Bowie, who's just been huge for me. I say 70s Bowie as well. I mean, I did, I lost Bowie in the 80s after Let's Dance. But for me, the 70s belonged to Bowie, really. So, like, I remember Life on Mars, and I have my dad bought a stereo. So the stereo would have been in this sort of what we call the sitting room. So you go in and listen to the records there. But then, I don't know, I got a little portable player then, which was just, wouldn't play LPs, just played 45s. So I remember Life on Mars particularly, I just wore it out. I would go up to my bedroom and just listen to it by myself. And, that record would just, like Life on Mars, that just really transported you, it fired up your imagination. I mean, obviously that was when things were starting to get a bit hairy in Northern Ireland. It was like I was walking to school and seeing policemen lying dead on the road, and bombs going off 200 yards from our school and stuff. So it was a mental time. But I think the music saved me, and it fired up your imagination, and it made you see the world in color, and it also kind of opened it up. You realized that, okay, you lived in this small place, but that there was a larger universe out there that you could maybe have access to later on.
It's a god-awful small affair girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go, but her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream to the seat with the clearest view, and she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a sad thing for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools if they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the low man beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
So how about the live shows at the time? What I mean, as a kid, did your parents take you to see any bands, or did you go? When was the sort of first live concert you went to see? Was there many in Derry at the time? Was there many?
No, there was nobody. Nobody would come. I mean, very few people would have come during the early 70s. The only people that came really were Rory Gallagher came, but he would have gone. He would have gone to Belfast. The Bay City Rollers came to Derry, which is quite interesting. They came, and that would have been right at the height of Roller Mania, about 74 or something. So I heard about it, but I didn't go and see it. I wouldn't, They said it earlier, I wouldn't go and see it. But, I can imagine it must have been just absolutely mental,
Oh, yeah.
So there were like show bands. There were show bands around that time. And they would just, they were all dressed up in suits and, they were perfectly competent. In fact, they're probably all brilliant musicians. I think Rory Gallagher actually played in a show band, in the early mid-60s. For me, I was already thinking, they weren't doing the sort of songs that I wanted to do. They do like Running Bear, stuff like that. They do more, it's more sort of 50s stuff. It's funny, because like you think about the early 70s, there was a real sort of renaissance of kind of like 50s rock and roll was starting to happen again.
Yeah.
So you would have seen that there would have been those show bands and stuff. But the first band that I actually saw live in concert was Horslips, Irish band called Horslips. What they did was they took like old traditional music, sometimes like, maybe 1,000 years old or whatever. They get these old tunes and they would update them. They were an electric band and they were fantastic. They really were. When they started, they were so great live. But you had to go over the border. I don't think they came into the north. They wouldn't have come in, because when I saw them, I was about 14, so that's 74, 75.
Yeah.
So I had to go over the border, and my uncle took me. And my uncle was like the youngest in my mom's family, so he was only about maybe 10, 15 years older than me. But he was a bit of a tube. He was like, he had no sense at all. And I remember he bought me a beer, and I was thinking, thought I was in heaven. I was like, well, I'm going to see a band, and he's bought me a beer. So, and then he told my mum. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I told my mum. So it was a whole big row about that. But it was still really exciting and sort of forbidden and stuff, And Horslips were brilliant. And I think if you talk to any kind of Irish musicians, like of my generation, like people like Damien, Kieran, Sean O'Hagan from the High Llamas, when we've all been together, we've all talked about, and for most of us, that was the first band we all saw. But then when punk came along, it was really funny because they were probably the first band that I had heard of who they started doing blitzkrieg bop. Can you imagine? They were in on the first Ramones LP. Because I remember they were kind of famous. I remember like, we were just, I remember like the first time when you hear the first Ramones LP, it was, again, that was another big moment because everything before that was getting very layered and very kind of Sonorama, like kind of really big sound and very open sound, and then theirs was like really dry and punky and in your face and very, very basic and minimal. Yeah. And it was a huge kind of shock.
Were the Horslips doing like sort of Irish folk versions of Blitzkrieg Bop?
No, they would have done it quite straight. You know, it would have been like an encore. Yeah. They would have done it like an encore, and they would have done it straight. You know, they would have played it probably exactly the way it was on record. Only maybe they'd add the odd flourish or whatever.
Yeah, can you pick a Horslips song? Because I must admit I'm not aware of their music. I know I've heard the name, but
I think the two like my two favourites. I'm not going to say the best. It's just my opinion. There's one called Derek Doom, and there's Derek Doom's probably the most famous, and then there's another one called Furniture, and that's based on a very, very old melody. I think it's like from this guy called O'Carolan, who was a piper.
Okay, let's hear it. Horslips and Furniture.
Solid as a chair from an older time. You watch me slowly grow away from you. Only half understood the things I had to do, but you let me try, although it brought the pain to you. You let me try.
So what sort of drew you more into the sort of adult world of rock music and that? So you've mentioned that you saw the Horslips, and then what was it that sort of got you away from the sort of the chart music?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like, you know, I went to see Horslips and I loved them, but I didn't actually buy their record, you know, which was really interesting. So the other kind of, so this is, you're talking about that kind of period, sort of after glam. So obviously I would have been like Roxy Music. So it would have been like Bolan, Bowie and Roxy Music. So I would have had like, I didn't have that many LPs, but I had like 3 Bowie LPs. So I got Ziggy, that would have been the first LP. And I think I actually got The Man Who Sold the World after that. And then I got Hunky Dory. So I would have had those 3. And then I got a Rory Gallagher. So it was the first Taste LP. Like Rory Gallagher was in a 3-piece. They were basically like the Irish version of Cream. I think they're actually better than Cream, to be honest. I know that sounds like a big statement, but the first Taste LP came out in 1970. Yeah, I think it was John Lennon's record of the year that year. He loved it as well, and it's raw as hell and kind of punky as well. Yeah, play Same Old Story.
Okay, this is Taste featuring Rory Gallagher and Same Old Story.
Old story.
Yeah, I really love that track, you know, because he's a real raw guitar player, isn't he? You know,
he's amazing guitar. Because I mean, I don't really like, you know, guitar players that solo all day. I find that completely boring. There's only really two guitar players that I can listen to for any length of time, and it's Rory and Hendrix. And like the thing with Rory is he never ever played the same thing twice, and he just has this. It's just his melodic ear, you know. It's just really quite, because you know to be that good and not to be playing the same thing all the time. It's, you know, it's really difficult.
So was he someone that inspired you to actually make that move into being a musician? So you're a fan, and then did he inspire you to pick up a guitar?
Yeah, well, I think it would have been like the glam thing would have been, and then to be honest with you, I think Rory and Jimi Hendrix, I really loved the both of them, but I think they kind of almost put me off because, you know, very, very, very quickly I thought, I'm never going to be as good as them. It doesn't matter how much I practice now, you know.
For you starting up then, when you're looking at Rory Gallagher, Jimi Hendrix, it must have been a bit more daunting than trying to sort of play along to Johnny Ramone or something like that, or Mick Jones of the Clash. You know,
well, that was the reason why punk was so great as well, because then, you know, it was like the flashbulb goes off in your head, and it's like, well, you know, I don't need to play like Rory or Hendrix. Do you know what I mean? You just have to have a bit of imagination and try and find your own style, and you know, it's like, because I mean, I wanted to write songs as well, and I had words. You know, I wrote words, so I wanted to put it all together. So I think, you know, because I think the whole thing with punk is like I really despair sometimes when I read, you know, these kind of revisionist histories that you read about it now. I mean, people say to me, well, what did punk mean to you? And I think I really love that Richard Hell thing. You know, it was like the blank generation. It wasn't blank like nihilistic, you know, just destroy everything. It was fill in the blanks, be what you want to be. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's just like there's a, you know, it's like a tabula rasa, as they say. It's like you know, you've got a clean sheet in front of you. You can rewrite yourself. You know, whoever you were before that moment, you can just be somebody else. Do you know what I mean? You can just, everything was ripped up. I mean, you could say with punk that they threw the baby out with the bathwater to some extent. It was just like I remember thinking, because it took ages for the Sex Pistols to get on TV, didn't it? So I think it must have been the first time I would have seen them on TV, when it must have been pretty vacant on Top of the Pops. And I remember, like, there was nobody in the house, and I had the TV up full, and I was just jumping around the room. But I remember thinking, my life is starting now. Do you know what I mean? This is the start. This is like a kickstart to my life. My life begins in earnest now.
So was that the impetus for you to actually get out and start a band, or had you already done that before punk came along?
No, I wouldn't. I think even in the early days of punk as well, I mean, there was just far too much good stuff there, and I still didn't feel like I was ready. Do you know what I mean? I didn't feel like, this is my moment now where I jump on the train. I was quite happy. I wanted to soak it all up first. You know what I mean? I really wanted to soak it up first. I think actually, because being at school with Damien and then seeing the Undertones, seeing how their career took off, and, you know, seeing them from the early days. I mean, they were always great. I mean, I still think those early days, I think whenever they got signed and everything, and they cleaned up the sound a bit too much for me. But, you know, in the early days, the Undertones were more like what the Petrols were later on. And, you know, it's like they still had that kind of rawness to them.
Don't look so surprised. You've been telling me lies. It's hard to wake up to your makeup, so please take off that disguise. All your true confessions. True confessions. You are just an act. I don't know it for a fact. I got a picture from your sister and it's writing on the back. All your true confessions. True confessions. Sort this out, not so hard to talk about. You can hide your fears and tears. You can even scream and shout all your true confessions. True confessions. Don't look so surprised. You've been telling me lies. It's hard to wake up to your makeup, so please take off that disguise. All your true
they were fantastic because we needed something like that, and it was like, it just made you feel great. It was shit. If you saw the Casbah was such a dive, honestly. All the pubs in the town around that time. I mean, I couldn't get into most of them because I just looked. When I was 17, I still looked about 12 or 13. So I couldn't get in it. Like basically the Casbah was in this. I think it was the pub had actually been bombed, and then what they did was they put this porta cabin inside the kind of ruins of whatever that place was. So it was just a porta cabin. So if you couldn't get inside, all you had to do was stand outside. You can hear the music perfectly well. Do you know what I mean? There's only room for about 50 people inside anyway at the most. There's probably more than that. They squashed everybody in. Yeah. So it wasn't until they moved to this other place not far away. And again, it was just like there's maybe, 50, 60 people. There's a place called the Rock Club. Mm. And the stage was above the bar, if you can imagine. So it was up on it was elevated.
Oh, right.
And it was just, I remember, that's one of the really great gigs that I've seen in my life as well. Because I think that was really very, very inspiring. To see somebody who you knew doing it well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And the thing with Undertones was that, they always were so down to earth. They had no airs and graces at all. And it just made everybody love them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the more, probably more so. Do you know what I mean? And then they were on top of the pops. And it was dead exciting. And I mean, it was great, and they couldn't believe it, and we couldn't believe it. And then not only did they weren't a one-hit wonder either. They had a career. They made, they made 3 great records, and they got to America to play with the Clash. So whenever I'd see Damien around, by that stage I'd gone to university, but I would come back to Derry on weekends sometimes. And I remember, seeing Damien in the pub and just cornering him and getting him to chat about, how it was with the Clash and stuff. So it was brilliant. So I think having them do that, it really, not only with the punk thing, but with that kind of proximity to them, that you thought, you could do it. If you've got something good enough, you could definitely do it.
So I know it's difficult. When I asked you about the Undertones, I know it's impossible even for me to pick a favourite Undertones track, but I was trying to narrow it down a bit. And you went for, it surprised me a little bit, because you went for one of the later songs. When I asked you what your favourite Undertones track was,
You're Welcome.
Yeah, you picked You're Welcome, which is
the backstory to that. I know the people that he wrote it about. So I think that makes it even more personal for me, because it was about a guy called Christy Tucker and his girlfriend, who's now his wife. And Christy was in jail basically. So it was about kind of her waiting for him to come out again, and sort of just a sadness, because it was like, there was that generation of young men that got caught up in the troubles, and I was only a couple of years younger, and I'm just really lucky I was too young at the time of Bloody Sunday. I think the music was a great outlet for us. Do you know what I mean? We're really lucky we had it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to hear these stories behind a lot of the Undertones, because on the surface, Undertones have always had this sort of, they joke themselves, they're just songs about chocolate and girls, but they often had a deeper meaning, and obviously from where you were brought up, it's quite interesting to get that sort of backstory. So let's hear.
I remember but just one more last thing to finish up on. I think when I heard You're Welcome, I thought, because if you think about it, before then it was a lot of kind of Ramalama stuff. It was like a kind of, they were very kind of Ramones-y, first LP and some of the second LP, and with You're Welcome, that was like, whoa, this is another level here. This is a proper kind of adult sort of song that's got, there's a lot of depth of emotion in it. You know what I mean? Even though on the surface it's very short and it seems quite simple. I mean, but it's just really, really just captured something brilliant. And I think Damien's guitar playing, that solo that Damien does, I remember the first time I heard it, I was just like shivers down my spine. It's just, they really captured something there. I thought fantastic.
Well, let's hear it now. So let's hear the Undertones and You're Welcome.
Such
You're welcome. You're welcome. Cause all sorts of problems when I'm out. No one has the brains to keep me out. Same as anybody in this place. Counting all the cracks that's in my face. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Tell us about your first band, your first phrase into your own music.
Well, I think maybe about 82. So when I went to university, I was started half-heartedly kind of looking for people to play with there. But it never got beyond the kind of drunken chats, in the pub. And then, of course, the next day, nobody actually did anything about it, So it's really funny. So I finished university, went back to Derry again. And to be honest with you, I kind of thought, maybe that's over, maybe it's not going to happen. And then within a couple of months, I was in 2 bands and I was DJing as well. Just by chance, I struck up a friendship with John O'Neill and we started doing a little club night, me, him and another friend, Mickey Rooney. And we just played records and we got a really kind of great vibe kind of happening. And the people that went there really loved it. And we took it really seriously. We'd spend the whole night talking about what records we would do, and then we would make actually like a list. So then we would just follow the list, and so it meant that that we could take it in turns DJing, you could take it in turns go dancing or go chat to your friends for a while as well. So it was fantastic. And then there's a local band called Bam Bam and the Calling playing, and I thought they were great. They were kind of like cross between like Adam and the Ants and Echo and the Bunnymen. And Paul, the singer, we became friendly and asked me their guitar player left and they asked me to play guitar. So I started actually playing with them. Oh. So the first night I ever played with them, I got up on stage and it was a bit like my acting thing when I was like 7. I don't know where I got the nerve to do it because we did Sister Ray and we'd never rehearsed it or anything, and I just about knew it. You know what I mean? I thought, well, I'm sure I can bluff this. And it's just one of those things where it was magical and everything clicked and everybody got into it. And Paul's really great because he's like a proper poet and he can just do stuff off the top of his head. So me and him just kind of really locked in, And we did this verse of Sister Ray and people went nuts, And then John O'Neill was there. He was watching. And then he approached me a couple of days later and said if I fancied, because I'd been on at him, why don't you write songs again? What's wrong with you? That's what you do, blah, blah, blah. But he was still on a bit of a downer after the Undertones, and he kind of lost his confidence and stuff. But I'd sort of kept at him, and he'd got his enthusiasm back through doing the Left Bank with us. So then he asked me, he said, look, I've got some songs. Do you want to help me get something together again? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, of course. So I was doing both. I was doing Bam Bam still and playing with them. And that was just, I always say to people, I felt more like a rock star with Bam Bam than I ever did in That Petrol Emotion.
But you never recorded anything with Bam Bam and the Calling, did you? But you've got a little bit of a live snippet that we can play, a little treat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping the audio, you could probably just give like a 20-minute snatch or something. It's very raw. But I mean, it's a shame there's not a better sort of document because we were really, really good. Or those songs that I've given you, they're very rough and ready, but I think that's all there is, unfortunately. I really wished we had made at least one single together, as to my eternal chagrin. because that snippet I gave you, it's actually there's a version of John and myself in a drum machine. It was the first time we ever played as a duo. So I was singing and he'd play guitar, I was playing guitar, and we did a version of Pale Blue Eyes. The drum machine rhythm that we used for Pale Blue Eyes, and we sped it up a bit and we used it for Blind Spot and went on Manic Pathro. It's exactly the same rhythm.
So this sort of duo that you formed, around the time of Bam Bam and the Calling with John O'Neill, was this what led into That Petrol Emotion?
Yeah, there was a couple like my girlfriend at the time, Liz. She was a good-looking girl, and John O'Neill thought that she was the new Debbie Harry, but unfortunately, she just wasn't musical. And it put a lot of strain on our relationship at the time because I was supposed to be like teaching her the songs and stuff, And I remember doing like a Natural Kind of Joy with her, and she'd come in the wrong place all the time, or it just wasn't working, And I think it put her under a lot. I think she felt a lot under pressure as well, so that didn't help, So
that's a new one to me. I didn't know. So That Petrol Emotion could have had a female singer.
Yeah, and then when we moved to London as well, there was another female singer for a while. She only lasted one gig as well. She was called Mel, and she was like a proper kind of rock chick, But again, it just didn't suit the songs, I remember her singing like Keen, and it just didn't work, One gig in a pub called Islington, I think, and I think it was organised by maybe Dick Green or Alan McGee from Creation. Because when we were in Derry, our friend Mickey Rooney, he was at university with Dick Green and Dick Green's girlfriend, now wife, Elaine. And Elaine came to Derry and she told Alan and Dick that we were starting to do something. So Alan sent John O'Neill a letter and said if we came to London, he would put a song out on Creation. So we should have been on Creation. But unfortunately, when the time came, they put their money into the first Jesus and Mary Chain record and they didn't have any money. So they kept telling us to wait. Yeah. And we just couldn't wait anymore because we were losing our momentum, We needed to kind of get going, So then Pink Records they came along and they said, okay, we'll pay for it. So we went with them instead. And Dick and Alan weren't very happy, as you would imagine.
So then Damien joined the band as well. So you had John and Damien from the Undertones.
Kieran joined first. So it was me and John. And then basically Kieran was in London and he heard that me and John were starting to play. And he sent John a letter offering his services as a drummer. And he'd filled in for Billy Doherty. He'd filled in with the Undertones like 2 or 3 times, I think. He'd actually done like a European tour one time when he was about 15. Which is still on YouTube, actually. You should see how young he is. Incredible. So I knew of Kieran because Kieran had played in about 2 or 3 punk bands in Derry at one stage or another. And I knew of him because one night we were at a pop quiz together and he was in it and his specialist round was the Buzzcocks. And he got 10 out of 10. And the Buzzcocks would have been one of my favourites as well. So I was like, wow, I was really impressed with this guy, I found a really kind of kindred spirit here.
Yeah, that's great.
And Damien was already living in London and he'd had a band with Mickey Bradley and it hadn't worked out. And so when he heard our demo, he wanted to play. He wanted to join. And he was happy to turn, to be the bass player, which put me in a weird position, as you can imagine, because I was thinking, whoa, what's going on here? But I wasn't prepared to give up my, he never said to me, he never made me feel like, he should be doing guitar as well. He was so happy just to be playing, and I think he really loved playing bass in the early days. It was just a different thing for him, and he was just happy to be a part of it. So it worked out quite well. Yeah, he joined the band, and then he tried to drown out the both of us. True Damien fashion.
Yeah. And then you've already ditched the idea of the female vocalist. You got Steve Mack, and then you go off on with That Petrol Emotion, which we've already done a fantastic podcast where we've gone into the whole story of That Petrol Emotion with Damien, yourself, and Kieran, which I recommend anyone who hasn't heard it to check out Retrosonic Podcast, the special episode. It's a great listen, And so then you got Steve Mack involved, and then you start writing songs. And tell us, what was the first sort of your own song that you managed to get on record?
I think there's only one song that I've brought to the Petrols that was never done, that was just discarded, and I never done anything with it either. So I was really lucky. Yeah. I was really on a bit of a roll. I mean, the first thing that I would have done is actually Blind Spot, and that was like I think I just give John. I had the verses for it, right? So I gave him the verses, just the words, and then he came back and he basically had more or less the whole thing, and he had the chorus and everything, and then he came up with that amazing guitar solo as well. So, and it's really funny because it's the format of it is exactly like Pale Blue Eyes as well, same number of verses and stuff. So that was the first thing I ever gave John. So then we wrote, but the first thing I ever wrote by myself was Lifeblood. So it would have been, I think I would have played it to Damien first, and he was like, yeah, it's really good. So that really gave me confidence, So when you think about it, it's incredible, first things that you've written are all, they're all documented, they're all on record.
Well, it's a great track. So let's hear That Petrol Emotion, and this is Lifeblood. So let's just pick out a track randomly, a track that you particularly like from That Petrol Emotion, and we'll give it a spin.
Okay, I'll pick Andy Weatherall's remix of Abandon. I think it was quite difficult to just pick one, but I think he did a great job on that, and we didn't really know who he was. Like Virgin asked us to let him do a remix, so a couple of us actually went to the studio just to make sure that, because I had no idea. He was completely unknown. I didn't know who he was or anything. Very quickly, he really kind of charmed us, and he knew what he was doing. I mean, he worked really quickly, and he had a brilliant engineer as well, this guy called Hugo Nicholson, who really kind of is responsible for the sound of a lot of stuff that he did in those early remixes, and really helped him a lot and had great ideas of his own. And we worked with him once more for a version of a Leonard Cohen song, Stories of the Street, for a Leonard Cohen tribute record.
I think he did capture some of the essence of That Petrol Emotion, because you were always into sort of dance music and funk music and soul music, as well as the sort of the punky side of things. And I think this was a great version, and I think we'll play that now. We'll play Bowie's own Andrew Weatherall mix of Abandon. When I asked you about to pick a couple of That Petrol Emotion tracks, surprisingly, you tended to go for sort of more the reflective side of things, some of the quieter, nicer songs,
Well, I think our ballads are really undervalued. I think John, Damien, Kieran, myself, we've all individually and together written some really beautiful ballads, and I always thought that was that's the true test of a proper songwriter, that they can write, that they can write like a pop tune, a kind of up song, a noisy song, and then like a ballad. Do you know what I mean? It's something you can. I'm always sort of hoping that somebody will do one of the ballads and kind of bring us to people's attention again, because I think we've just gone under the wire and been completely missed. There's no two songs that Petrol's did that are even vaguely similar, really. Do you know what I mean? You get other bands like, and you had that thing, especially in the 60s, somebody would have a hit. The follow-up hit was more or less the same thing again, because they didn't want to deviate from the sound too much. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we never did that. And I think it was to our detriment as well. Maybe people just couldn't get a handle on what we were doing sometimes.
Well, let's pick a track. Pick one that you're particularly proud of that shows this sort of more, the sort of, I say you call them ballads, but I just think they're more than that. They're sort of, some of them are sort of beautiful, timeless music, So pick one of your favourites for us.
You can do either Sweet Shiver Burn or Heartbeat Mosaic. I'll leave it to you to pick one of those.
Okay, well, I might even play both of them.
All right, great.
Sunset tears, this crummy town will squeeze you. Cling to fears, ones you've always known. Good is gold, twice as hard to part with. Truth be told, can't explain. Stand and wait, not at fate. It's too late, now you've been smothered whole. Sweet shiver burn, sweet shiver burn. Love's rhythms can trace what memory has dissolved. Silhouettes and daydreams, moonbeams and maybes cloak them all. In the common currency of the heart and soul, of the heart and soul. Heartbeat mosaic still waits and whispers, fills you with promise and wonder. Let me drink in its vast emotions and sun-kissed oceans that make me feel so real.
Over the years, you've reached quite a good level of success with That Petrol Emotion. So you must have shared the stage or the bill with some of your musical heroes over the years. Are there any particular people that you've worked with that have stood out, that you've been impressed with, or that you've been blown away by?
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been lucky to meet quite a few of my heroes, like face to face. We played with Iggy Pop. We did a tour about, must have been around the first. It was around the time of the first Gulf War. When I was in New York, we were both on Virgin. Iggy was signed to Virgin, and so were we. And I remember we had a couple of days off in New York, and they told us to come to this thing where Lenny Kravitz was doing a private thank you gig for MTV. And I was like, and so we heard there was free beer, so of course we went, and it was my birthday. And somebody said from Virgin, said, "Oh, come downstairs. We want to have a photograph of you using an Iggy Pop." So we got to meet Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
And he was Jim, he was Gentleman Jim, he wasn't Iggy Pop, he was Gentleman Jim. And he was so sweet and lovely and, personable, and it was amazing. But I never got to see the photograph. I'm sure it's like in the vault somewhere in Virgin. I'd really love to have that photograph. Yeah, so then whenever he was doing his next tour, which would have been American Caesar time, and we did 5 shows with him, so it would have been like Glasgow, Birmingham, London, and then Rotterdam, and maybe Amsterdam or something as well. So it was like 5 shows, and they were quite big shows, and they were amazing. I mean, we had actually Franz from the Young Gods. We had roped him in to play bass because John McKinney had just left or whatever. So we had Franz from the Young Gods on bass. So him and Kieran were like they were enjoying playing together, and it took a lot of pressure off being the support band. You had played 45 minutes. You could play all your best songs and make a great impression, and then go and watch Iggy, so that was fantastic. And I hadn't seen him. I'd never seen him before live. So I remember he came on stage, and it was in Glasgow, and he ran to the front of the stage, and he started shaking the PA, and you thought, we were all like kind of laughing, but then you thought, he's actually trying to push it off. This is really dangerous, And I just to see that wired energy, because the thing about it is, I remember watching him off stage before he came on, and I mean, he's tiny. I mean, I'm a midget. I'm 5'5" at the most. I think I'm shrinking, and he's only 5'1" or 5'2". He's even smaller than I am. But the thing about it was, you saw him down the steps waiting to go on, and he just looked like a wee small man.
Yeah.
When he came on stage, it's like he seems to like just grow, and it's like sort of Jekyll and Hyde in a way.
Yeah.
And just the energy that he projected when he ran on, and the crowd roared and stuff. And he had a good band at that. I mean, they were a bit sort of heavy metal, but they were really good. And they stuck to the hits. There wasn't any, this is, all the tracks off the latest LP that nobody wants to hear. They were just giving you the hits, one after the other. And it's like, those songs are like, those songs do damage, it's fantastic.
And you've picked an Iggy track, which wasn't an obvious choice. And I think this is quite an underrated album. This is Kill City from the album he did with James Williamson, and it's a great track, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's an LP very few people talk about, and it's like it's all good as well. It's not that long. I think that's why it's so good. It's like it's not, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's obviously more. You can see it's more enthralled in the Rolling Stones, but just the songs are so good. And then James Williamson did a remaster there a few years ago, and it's bloody brilliant because you can hear all the detail that you couldn't really pick up on before, all the kind of nice overdubs and stuff. So if you've got headphones on, it's great. It's a great remix. The words are brilliant. I mean, the words are fantastic.
Yeah, no, I love this album, and it's a great excuse to play it. Let's hear Iggy Pop and James Williamson and Kill City. As I say, working with people like Iggy and that, were you ever a collector of memorabilia? Have you got as a musician, I know it's difficult, you're working, but were you ever a sort of starstruck, and did you ever sort of grab any memorabilia or merchandise along the way? Have you got any prized possessions from your adventures?
I don't really, and it's to my eternal sort of shame, really. I mean, even a lot of people, like, I'll give you an example. Like, whenever the Petrols reformed in 2008, 2009, we went to South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and there was a friend of ours who really knew Ian McLagan very well from the Faces, and he had moved to Austin. He was living there, and he used to play every week with his band. So we got to meet him, and me and Damien spent the whole evening chatting to him. And I'd read his autobiography, so I knew a lot about his kind of backstory, and his family are Irish and stuff, so he really took to us, and we just loved hearing his stories and stuff. We never even got a photograph with him or anything, and then he was dead like a couple of years later, and it was just like, what are we doing? So a few years ago, Sylvain from the New York Dolls did a thing up in Camden.
Oh,
where
yes.
he had a book out. And he was doing like a little kind of, he did a few songs and then he did a Q&A and stuff. And me and Damien, we were like, right, we're getting a photograph with this guy. He's not getting away from us this time, you know. And we did. We got this great photograph with him, you know. You know, the thing about it was, like, I stopped drinking and taking drugs started in 93. So for about 15 years, I was really keen on it, you know. So unfortunately, some of my most memorable sort of times, you know, unfortunately, I don't have great recall about it. You know, for example, one night, my friend Mickey, for a while, he was putting on bands in the George Roby, and he put on John Cooper-Clarke for a couple of shows. So apparently, me and John Cooper-Clarke spent the whole night at the bar of the George Roby, chatting and laughing and having the best of time. Can I tell you one thing about that evening? No, I can't remember anything. And I mean, that would have been the time where he was on Smack as well and living with Nico and stuff, you know. So what a disaster. So a lot of my stories are I was drunk and I met for first time when we signed the Polydor records. So they invited us to. There was like a big do for Polygram. It must have been like the end of the year. Yeah, it must have been the end. No, it must have been. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It's the end of the year, 1986. So we'd signed with them, but we hadn't made. We were just about to go into McBabble. So me and Steve went. And so we met all these people, you know. And I remember meeting the singer from Yello, you know, the Swiss duo Yello. And the guy, like, you know, the singer, his name escapes me now, which is terrible. I know the other guy, Boris Blank. What's his name?
Dieter somebody, I can't.
Dieter, that's it. Dieter. It is Dieter Meyer, something like that.
Yeah, something like that,
yeah. I met Dieter, and I was telling Dieter how we used to play I Love You by Yello in our little club night, you know, in Derry.
Oh, right.
There were 40 people, 50 people, whatever it was. And, you know, I'm sure he must have thought I was insane, you know. I mean, I do remember some people. I remember, like, Pete Wylie was great fun. We used to see him quite a lot because he was with our management company for a while, and he used to just turn up out of the blue, or he'd turn up, you know, when we were playing in Liverpool, and you're guaranteed a great night with him, you know, because you'd never get to actually say anything, but all you had to do is just listen to all the great stories that he had and all his adventures, you know. So, you know, I got to meet the Buzzcocks a few times, and, you know, got like Pete Shelley, one of my heroes. I met him, I met Iggy, I met Television, I met Richard Lloyd, and I'd like to go back and relive some of it again. I definitely, you know.
Yeah, so you can remember.
Exactly. You know, well, it's good. Like, the one good thing is if you got Kieran with you, he's got a brilliant memory. He's got good recall. So a lot of stuff I can't remember, he'll tell me, you know.
So have you got any sort of prized merchandise in your possession?
The only thing that I could think of, I think I might have put this in the email to you, was that whenever I was at Coleraine University, NUU as it was called at the time, New University of Ulster, and, you know, not many bands would come over. There was only a few English bands that would come over, and Dexy's came over. So this would have been just after Dance Dance. So basically there was, you know, I remember, I think it was 50p to get in to see them. And there was only like 40 people there. There wasn't that many people, if there even was 40 people. But this was the time between Dance Dance and Gino. So if you think about it, the night that I saw them, I think 10 weeks later, they were number one with Gino. And the thing about it was, so they didn't care. There was only 40 people there. You know, they'd already been paid. And, you know, the universities paid quite well in those days. That circuit was a really good circuit to play. So they turned up and they played, you know, there was maybe 40 people, 50 people there, but they played like there was 40,000 people there. Yeah. They put on a show and they were just like, you know, I remember looking around and every one of us was just mostly our kind of crowd and a few other, you know, real music fans who probably hadn't even heard Dance Dance, but we had Dance Dance. We knew about them. And we knew that Kevin, kind of the Irish heritage and stuff as well. And they came on stage and they just done one of the most amazing gigs I've ever seen in my life. Just blew the place away. Do you know what I mean? They knew they were great. You know, they were doing it for themselves, but it was like, you know, you could just tell everything was coming good for them, you know. And I was like kind of speechless at the end, and I went, I don't know how I managed it, but I don't usually do this, but I went to talk to Kevin, and he was really lovely. He spent ages chatting to me, and I had the poster for the university poster, and it was a great poster as well. Yeah. And I got him to sign it. So he's the only person I've ever asked for his autograph. So I would say that poster with his autograph. Interesting. And it's kind of half fallen apart now, but I still got it. It's in the garage.
Yeah, that's a great story. And
so that's my memorable. I think that's. I think it means a lot to me. You know,
yeah. Well, pick a Dexy's track because they're a great band, especially their early songs. So,
Tell Me When My Light Turns Green.
Oh, it's a great track. Yeah, should we hear that now?
Yeah,
let's play it. But let's go back to you as a fan, because I know you're a huge music fan yourself. And just a bit of fun here. Let's just pick a classic example of a great 45 single. You know, a great sort of pop song. Pop as in doesn't have to be pop music, but a great pop single.
Pick something that was really, was top 10. I'm not sure, maybe even top 5. It was 20th Century Boy by T-Rex. It's one of those songs. Every time I hear it, still. Yeah, I've heard it a million times, so every time I hear it, it still sounds, it's everything that I love in one record, It's just it just really lifts me up every single time, It'll always do the trick.
Yeah.
Always.
And you come up with another track, which is probably quite timely as a bit of sad news that Steve Priest of The Sweet passed away recently. And this would have been, again, a good example of a classic 45 is The Sweet.
Yeah, Ballroom Blitz.
And Ballroom Blitz. And I think, it's sad news about Steve Priest, but this is a great band. I mean, The Sweet made some great pop singles, didn't they? A classic records.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, they had a fantastic run in the early to mid-70s as well, like 5, 6, 7, 8. Like they were even still having hits in 1977, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were great. I mean, those records sound fantastic as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's absolute nonsense, but it's fantastic nonsense.
Yeah. But that's the great. A lot of the great pop music is nonsense, isn't it? That's the love. That's the whole.
I think when you're doing pop music, you can't be self-conscious. I think self-consciousness is the enemy of good art, really.
So hard living with the things you do to me. My things are getting so strange. I'd like to tell you everything I see. Oh, I see a man in the back. As a matter of fact, his eyes are as red as the sun. And the girl in the corner, let no one ignore her, 'cause she thinks she's the passionate one. Oh, yeah, it's like lightning. Everybody was frightening, and the music was soothing, and they all started grooving. And the man at the back said, everyone attack, and it turned into a ballroom blitz. And the girl in the corner said, boy, I want the money, and it'll turn into a ballroom blitz. Ballroom blitz, ballroom blitz, ballroom blitz, ballroom blitz. Something, touching nothing's all I ever do. Oh, I softly call you over. When you appear, there's nothing left in you. Now the man at the back is ready to crack as he raises his hands to the sky. And the girl in the corner is everyone's fun. She could kill you with a wink of her eye.
How many records? I'm talking about albums now. How many albums would you say like the perfect album? I mean, there's no matter taking away just your favourite band and bands that you like, but I'm talking an album that sort of from the cover art to the sound to the production to the track listing to the, there's no filler. I mean, for example, for me, Parallel Lines' Blondie is a great example of a great album. How about you? Give us a couple of examples of...
I made you a wee list, didn't I? Say Stevie Wonder, Talking Book and Inner Visions, both of those. Because I'm talking about like records that, because there's always something, like even say with Astral Weeks by Van Morrison, there's still always a couple of tracks on there I would skip. But the ones where I really thought about, and I thought I never skip any of these. Love Forever Changes, another big favourite of mine. Television, Marquee Moon. First New York Dolls LP. First three Roxy Music LPs. First 3 Roxy Music LPs,
yeah,
actually.
I was gonna say 3.
First 3 Roxy Music LPs. Low, Honky Dory by Bowie.
Yeah.
Air 2, both of those are perfect. There's not one bad track on those, and they flow beautifully. The Everlasting LP is, I think there's no filler on that either. I would say maybe some of the other Petrol's records I would definitely skip the odd track or whatever, but I think that's why I'm so proud of the Everlasting record, Anima Rising, because I remember when I went to sequence it, and it was so easy to sequence because I knew what way it should go.
On the north side, on the south side, on the east side, west side, it's all around. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you hear it? Now it's all over town. There's a new beat on Shaking Street, so let's meet before it gets too late.
time to wait. I'm gonna tell you about the things I need to tell you about, and I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you about the things I need to tell you about, and I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you. On the north side, on the south side, on the east side, west side, it's all around. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you hear it? Now it's all over town. There's a new beat on Shaking Street, so let's meet before it gets too late. I'm gonna tell you about the things I need to tell you about, and I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you about the things I need to tell you about, and I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you, so tell me, I'll tell you. First is life, second is true, third is love, and fourth is peaceful heart. First is life, second is true, third is love, and fourth is peaceful heart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. First is life, yeah, yeah, yeah. Second is true, yeah, yeah, yeah. Third is love, and fourth is peaceful heart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. First is life, yeah, yeah, yeah. Second is true, yeah, yeah, yeah. Third is love, and fourth is.
Well, I remember writing about it when I first heard it and being completely blown away. Obviously, you can read about it on the Retroman blog, but you must be
Yeah,
so
please
proud of
do.
that record. It's
I am, because if you think about it, I mean, look at the gap. There's 18, how many years was it between records? It's ridiculous. It's like 22 years or something ridiculous. So, like all that time, it's really funny because people think, oh, they were away for like 22 years. What were they doing? I mean, me and Kieran have about 30, 35 pieces of music and done songs. We have so much material. So like recently we were saying to each other, like time's running out. We need to get all this stuff out, So whenever hopefully we can get back to any sort of semblance of normality and finish, because, we've halfway through recording the second Everlasting Yeah record finally.
Yeah.
And that sounds fantastic. I mean, we went in and did 3 songs in a weekend, and it was very intense, and we worked really hard. But when we came out, it was what we've done is great. And then the next 4 songs after that to do are probably even better, So it's really exciting. And then we just have loads of other stuff. We've got to try and get in. I think we're going to just start putting stuff out and not being so precious about it. I think we have to just start putting stuff out because we're running out of time, And I think we're very lucky. There's an audience there that's still waiting for us and still waiting to put the stuff out. And the stuff's great. It should be heard as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it seems such a long time ago that we saw you play live. You were premiering some of these great songs. And I've got a couple on the Retroman blog YouTube channel where we did our gig at the Half Moon and you played Lexington and you started to feed a couple of these songs in.
They're even better than those. I mean, I remember listening to one of them recently, and I mean, they've gone through so many changes since then. They're just like 10 times better now as well.
Have you got any working titles for the album yet, or anything to keep us?
They don't like the ones that I've given them so far. So,
Well,
I've got a couple of good ones for my solo records. I'm keeping them to myself now.
Ah, right. Yeah. We look forward to hearing those.
So some friends as well are going to help me to try and get some money together to go and make a solo record as well. So I'm going to do that.
Well, we look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, I've been writing some stuff during the lockdown as well. So I've been quite busy.
Yeah.
It's been nice having all this extra time. I'd like to make more time for music.
And you've done your own podcast as well, haven't you?
Well, I did one, and then I went through. Yeah, I mean, it was quite difficult because just the technical side of things, I'm just so useless on. But I'm getting better, and I think now with these Zooms, I think like having done this with you today, it's given me confidence to maybe, because I've got some really good people lined up that are very interesting. So I think I've got to get that up and running again. I mean, if there's about 500 people watched the first one, which listened to the first one, which is great, and it's still there. It's up on SoundCloud. When
I publish the podcast, I'll also put a little feature on retromanblog.com, and I'll put links to That Petrol Emotion sites and obviously the Everlasting Year and your podcast. So I'll check the blog, retromanblog.com, for all the links to where you can buy lots of lovely Everlasting Year albums, and we look forward to and we look forward to the new album when it's coming out, and that's good news that it's underway. So I'd just like to say thank you, Raymond Gorman, of currently the Everlasting Year, and it's great news that we've got a new album to look forward to, well, hopefully reasonably soon. Appreciate you taking the time to chat to us. Really good to see you again.
Thanks for having me, as they say. I look forward to the next one.
Yep, I'm sure we'll do another one in the future when you've got your solo album out, maybe.
Well, there'll be a solo album and hopefully the Everlasting Year as well, and hopefully the avalanche of all this stuff that's been in the background for all this time.
And we'll see you soon.
Take care, Steve. Thank you.
Cheers.